There it goes. Okay. Aha. So hello, everyone. Welcome today to our Bridges to Better Business program. This is our third session focused on circularity for this week for Circularity Month as well as Small Business Month. Today we're joined with Jess and Heather from Harvest Impact and the 10C here in Guelph. We're very excited to have them. Just as a note, if you are watching this live on Facebook or after the fact, feel free to add anything to the comments. I will be monitoring through this session and I'll be watching them later on after the recordings. If you have any questions later on, feel free to email me success@guelphbusiness.com and I can get your questions and get you connected directly to Heather and Jess as well if you're not sure how to connect with them. So Heather, Jess, welcome. Thank you again for joining us today. We're very excited for this program. I will pass it over to you and let you get started.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Angela. I'm just going to set my screen here. Okay.
All right. Everyone seeing our screen?
Yep, you're great.
Okay, lovely. Okay, so nice to be with everyone live and on Zoom and after the fact. So yeah, Jess and I are here and we're going to share with you around socially financing a circular economy. You are welcome. We'd love to see in the chat if you could share with us who you are, where you're from, your interest, and even your knowledge level of social finance and circular economy. And let's say put that on a scale of 1 to 5, 0 being I have no knowledge whatsoever, and 5 being you know it all. So okay, so we'd love to hear from you that way. So we're going to move on. We're going to do land acknowledgement. We are coming to you from Guelph, Ontario. 10C is located in the place that is today referred to by some as Guelph, Ontario. We are grateful to exist on the ancestral lands of the Attawandaron, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee people, and the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. We thank all of the people who have taken care of and continue to take care of the land. As a visitor on the treaty lands of the Dish with One Spoon Covenant, we recognize the significance of this treaty and will work to uphold this agreement and take care of the land and its resources. Okay, so our team, you get to see what Jess and I really look like, as well as our as the illustrations. Julia Grady is the co-founder and executive director of 10C, and Jude as well. They are an integral part of this team, and we are a tight but mighty team doing great work around Harvest Impact. So I'm going to go on and talk to you a little bit around some of the terminology. And Jess or Angie, have we seen anything come up in the chat? I'm wondering where do we see it?
Nope, not yet.
Not yet. Okay. All right. So then I'm going to take that to mean we got a lot of like 0s to 3s in the awareness and knowledge of what we're looking at in social financing. So social financing is the practice of making investments intended to create social or environmental impact in addition to financial returns. So it's really, where are you putting your money? You may be purchasing a bond, or we as social financiers are investing in companies that are creating a social impact. And another example, you may not know where your mutual funds are going, or what is the package of where that is being invested. And 10C, as an example, as an organization, we offered a community bond social investment opportunity to our community. And we financed our physical space by selling $2.5 million of community bonds. And the benefit to our over 120 bondholders is that they actually get to see this physical space and the impact that we're making. And they know that the return that they're getting, which is between 2.5% and 5%, depending on the size of the bond. They know directly what they're investing in and get to see the impact it makes while they watch their money grow. So those are some examples of social financing. A social impact is the effect on people and communities that happens as a result of an action or an inaction, an activity, project, program, or policy. So something else that's happening out of 10C is really encouraging organizations and businesses to measure their impact against the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So a social impact could be, as small as looking at what you're doing with your food waste, how you're working to eliminate food waste. And I shouldn't call that small, I'm saying at the individual level. To as significant as having a company that is working toward and eliminating the use of plastics or single-use plastics. So that is what we're looking at as a social impact. And social lending, which is what we're doing here at Harvest Impact, and we'll get into that a little bit more, is financing. So social financing with the intention to stimulate a social impact. So are you an individual or an organization that has a project or a business or a company or a not-for-profit that is working toward a social impact? We want to know what you're up to, especially if you're working within the circular food economy. And we want to support you in that. And we'll talk a little bit more about Harvest Impact. We'll go to the next slide. Okay, so we are a character-based lender. So a character-based lending is we really care about the impact you're making. We care about your values more so than maybe your past financial history. So we definitely support, equity deserving individuals, folks that may have, for whatever reason, in the past, based on their financial history, it would be some element of your financial history that you may not have been able to get traditional lending from your traditional sources like banking. And it doesn't mean for us to invest in you that you absolutely can't have received. Definitely we invest in companies that could have gone a traditional route, but definitely how we're partnering with our lendees, it's very helpful for them to know that we're actually real people. So we really like to get to know the company. How else can we support you? Just going to, you have someone else that's wanting in there, Angie. So we support circular economy entrepreneurs in their early and growth stages with access to social and financial capital. So social finance loans from Harvest Impact are between $2,500 and $50,000. And really we're looking to work with you and remove barriers to financing that may have existed and support you with the tools and training that you need. So we do definitely go above and beyond just the actual lending. And we're also partnered with some other financing and granting access points throughout the community. And we maintain our interest rates from 4% up to 10%, which in today's market is pretty great, unheard of.
Yeah.
Jess, at this point, is there anything before we move on that you're wanting to
No, I think
add?
that's great.
Yeah, okay, excellent. Let's move on. And
Angie, is there any questions?
No questions. You did get one of our participants just comment to let you know that her name is Sarah and that they are a grant proposal writing specialist in food and ag projects with an emerging interest in sustainable tech. So their background is a 3-4 for when you were asking for scale. So they're looking forward to learning more about the program to be able to present it to clients in their future.
oh, amazing.
That's great.
Excellent. Nice to meet you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Okay, and since we invited, we have had someone else come in. So if you want to let us know, our question is just who you are, where you're from, your interest in the program, and what we're delivering today, and your understanding on a scale of 0 to 5, 0 being none, 5 being you know it all on social finance. So where do we focus our efforts at Harvest Impact? So food, farm, and environment sector entrepreneurs. We're really interested in folks that practice or supportive of circular economy principles. And this is where us as a team and supporting an initial application are when you come into Harvest Impact, it just starts with get to know you. You may not, and great that we have someone like Sarah on here that can as well support her clients, but you might not know what you don't know. You may already have circular practices. If you're thinking that this might work with you and you need some direction in terms of how to apply and what am I doing and how are we a regenerative farmer? What does that mean? What does it look like? So we can support you in not only seeing the access points in the projects that you may need funding for or what you're already up to, but we can also support you in, let's say you did have a project that you were working toward, and Jess is going to talk later on about some of the projects that we funded, then we can support you in how to build more circularity into what you're doing. So we definitely want folks that can contribute to the creation of good local jobs. And we definitely give priority, as I mentioned before, to those that are facing barriers gaining access to capital. And we want your business to be located in or with ties to Southern Ontario. Certainly when I came to Harvest Impact, my view of what Southern Ontario meant expanded exponentially. So what is our swath?
It's Windsor to Ottawa, and then going as far north up to Grey County. So all the way up to like Haliburton, Kawarthas.
Yeah. So you can be a business, not-for-profit, a social enterprise, or a charity working in these sectors. If you're an individual with a project and you don't know where you fall, like we just always say, fill out the getting to know you. We'll set up a Zoom conversation and we can get you started there. And at some point, are we going to drop in the opportunity for the get to know you piece?
Yeah, I can do that at the end.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah, so that'll be available for everybody.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, ripping along here. So why is social financing important? Well, why isn't it? I mean, I have my own personal shtick around it, which is like just what's directed me and my work, and which makes me think maybe we should have done more of a formal introduction of ourselves, but we can do that. So my passion around social enterprise and social finance is there's a lot happening in the world, and the world needs to move quickly, and I'm not convinced that we can depend on, say, the public sector or government to move as quickly as we need, as the world needs us to. So inspiring not-for-profits to be, so, you know, in that social enterprise model where we can move quickly and we can pull levers quickly, and even bringing the private sector into social finance realm is really important. And in particular, I like to say the private sector is kind of what got us here, and because they can move quickly in terms of industry, and the private sector, I think, is responsible for getting us out. So yeah, my personal mission to have the full private sector become social enterprises is an aside. So what are we solving here at Harvest Impact? So food waste and a simultaneous lack of access to good, local, nutritious food characterize our dominant, beg your pardon, linear food system. So communities across Southern Ontario face growing levels of precarious work, income inequality, and food insecurity. And I think all we need to do is look to the news or look to the prices in our grocery stores to know what that is looking like for folks. As we continue to rely on a globalized food system, or if we do, it presents so many interconnected challenges. I think if you didn't know or hadn't heard the term supply chain before the pandemic, we've definitely heard it now, right? And as much as we are looking at a problem that we're solving, Harvest Impact is also really looking at what is the opportunity within that to educate towards circular practices, as well as to create solutions within the that globalized food system and to bring it back to a local. New and established small businesses, including those from barriered communities, lack social and financial capital to take risks on viable food, farm, and environmental sector solutions. So the lacking the capital, lacking the access to capital, lacking the capacity to get that capital, those are all things that Harvest Impact is really working to solve and work with, and we're doing it, which Jess is going to share with you shortly.
Can I add something?
Absolutely.
I was just going to say, if anyone knows, COVID shone such a bright light on food access for everyone, supply chain, like Heather mentioned. And I think really Harvest started back, I'd say early 2020, maybe even a little bit before that, in 2019, when Guelph-Wellington was successful in submission of the Smart Cities Challenge. And I know that Julia spoke a lot about food access and nutritious food for local citizens, and having Harvest Impact come in 2020, just as the pandemic was starting. And since then, I think this model has proven how important it is, and having people be able to find food at an affordable price with an easy access point has proven how important this social finance arm of the business of 10C is.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, so another why. So current problems that exist in the industry, flexible and right-sized financial and social support products are not readily available to food, farm, and environment entrepreneurs. So there's a lack of investment opportunities for local investors to contribute to local social impact projects. So Harvest Impact as an entity, we're also, as much as we're funding and supporting through lending, we're also creating an opportunity where there's an investment opportunity for local investors to build the Harvest Impact Fund that we can then lend out. So I feel like you might have more to say on that as well, Jess.
Well,
yeah,
I think partly what we've heard from some of our companies that we work with very closely is that they often need smaller loans. So 2,500 to 50,000 is a smaller loan. Sometimes banks aren't willing to give out those amounts of lending, and taking on the appropriate amount of risk is really important, not putting your family or your livelihood at jeopardy. And having a smaller loan is actually sometimes all you need. And banks don't traditionally offer the ranges that we focus on. And I think that's been really important for us as we've gone through the last year and a half.
Yeah, when you're applying for lending with us, like our lens on, for example, a financial statement is as much really we're looking at how are we supporting you in the degree of lending, and we don't want to necessarily overlend and put you at any kind of risk for your business. And it really is coming from like how are we supporting and I want to say scaling, although scaling is not a driver of necessarily who we are funding, as it can be with some other orgs. And so just really having that awareness of how will this definitely be a support for you, and knowing that we do, it's been referred to as microfinancing. I don't know that we're quite in the microfinancing realm, but that we support the smaller projects and just that little bit that you might need. Okay, let's go on to our next. Okay, so we've all heard this. Be the change you want to see in the world. What's the change that we would like to see? So we are providing mentorship, coaching, funding, and financing. And through this, what we expect to see is an increase in awareness and practice of circular economy principles, not just with who we're lending to, but their network. And we just want to keep expanding this conversations. We expect companies to grow and to thrive. And through that, we expect to see an increase in decent work, so that people are making the amount of money that they need to be making in their community for them to thrive as well. We expect to see an increase in our participants within Harvest Impact in their household income. We want to see improved access to nutritious local food everywhere within, well, obviously everywhere beyond what Harvest Impact is impacting, but definitely there. Improved access to nutritious local food, and as well as education around that. Like, what does access mean? Sometimes it just starts with the awareness. Thriving localized food systems. So what does it mean to create a circular food economy? We're looking at a full system. What is, and Jess will, I think, touch on this a bit more through the examples that we have, but how is, one company's spent grain increasing as we have bread on the picture, supporting getting really healthy, nutritious bread into the hands of the community and beyond. Definitely a significant decrease in food waste and increased local financial investment. And because all of these things are going to support our circular, thriving community. So that brings me to the end of my part. And, just to a lot of what we're doing today, as we kind of throw everything at you here, is letting you know what we're up to, but also all of this is to increase understanding and awareness and the importance of really the type of funding we're doing and the kind of local supportive economy that we want to see happen. So thanks, everybody. I may jump in a little bit. All right.
Are we ready to go, Angie, with this part? Great. Awesome.
Yeah, you're good. Sorry, I thought I was off mute and then I realized I wasn't. So
That's
you're
okay.
good to go. Yep.
I'm going to share with you a few of the impact stories that we've worked with on a few companies that we've provided loans to earlier this year. These are fantastic examples because sometimes social finance, you sort of have to see it and understand it in practice and sort of to make the connections and go, that's it. I see what they're doing. I get it. So we're going to do that right now. So one of the first examples I'm going to share is an example of a farm. Visser Farm is a regenerative farm actually located in Wellington County. They're a lovely family, Jess, Ryan, and their son. They raise pasture-based chicken, turkey, beef, pork. They also offer a glamping experience, so if you're into that sort of thing. Yeah. They have free-range eggs, and they applied for a social finance loan with Harvest Impact, specifically around the purchase of chicken tractors. And I'm not sure if everyone's familiar, but I'll move my cursor. This right here is the chicken tractor. So don't get it confused with the actual tractor. So this sort of covered wire frame has wheels on it. And what it can do is it can move across the pasture as the hens and chickens, eat the food, they're fertilizing the soil, and that becomes this sort of regenerative process that they can use. They purchased enough chicken tractors to grow around 1,200 pounds or 1,200 meat chickens on pasture. This was a new project for them that they wanted to be able to significantly improve their infrastructure around how to grow this many more birds, but also to be able to provide things like access to water and feed and make the manual parts of growing chickens still possible. So in the end, they raised about 1,500 pounds of local pasture raised chicken. They grew on the farm. Sorry, 5,500. Wrong zero in my head. Yeah. Thanks. And obviously they were able to sell a lot of these chickens and feed folks in their local community. In addition to the meat chickens, Jess and Ryan donated the chicken carcasses back to 10C's Nourish Kitchen. Here on site at 42 Carden in Guelph, we have a commercial kitchen on our 4th floor, and they donated the chicken carcasses that normally would have gone to waste. So they looked at how they could reuse some of the waste in the circular system. So I'm happy to say they were able to partner with our Nourish Kitchen. That's Jess on the left there with the long braid. That's Helena from the Harvest Impact team. And they were able to distribute the chicken stock that they used made from the carcasses through the seed, through the Guelph Community Health Center, and through some Indigenous food collaborators. They were thrilled with the results. They were able to share almost 400 containers of stock and be able to take it through the charitable sector in terms of donations, and they were thrilled with the results. So again, here's an example of the circular food economy, something that's benefiting the environment, socially, as well as they were able to earn revenue from the birds themselves. And so that is the piece that we want to make in terms of the connection of all 3 elements.
I just want to jump in because you've touched on something that is also sort of like an unseen benefit of even just our get to know you process. And that is where we want to support and foster and generate those collaborations and connections, that because you can't have a siloed circular economy. So that's a benefit as well of working with Harvest.
Yeah, it was a great project. And the tilt skillet, you can see Helena right here. This was a new piece of equipment that 10C had received from a grant that we had gotten not too many months before this. And this was the first time that the tilt skillet was able to be used, and it was fantastic. So it was a great project for us to partner on them with. The second story we want to share is a farm out of Aynton, Ontario. Jennifer Osborne and her partner Tim run All Sorts Acres. Jen and Tim have been exploring the use of unwanted wool. And this was new to me. I don't know if you'd heard of this before, but this was a fantastic project that we were happy to support them with. They have been exploring the number of possibilities around waste wool. So in Canada, around 1,200 tons of wool is produced annually. And a lot of this wool is high in vegetable matter. It's very coarse, so it can't be used like in the traditional textile industry, which results in almost 3% of Canada's yearly wool clip being suitable for fine textiles. So you think, okay, what is happening to the other 97% of wool? Well, it's sitting in warehouses, in farms, in backyard lots. And so Jen and Tim really wanted to look at, okay, what can we do with waste wool? There's got to be a use for it. So they use their Harvest Impact loan to figure out what would happen with wool if you took it and you pelletized it. And so when they looked at that, they realized that when you convert wool into a pellet, it can actually become a really great source of nitrogen and soil fertilizer. When you take wool pellets, they actually hold and retain the water that a lot of soils need in order for them to continue to be moist throughout dry periods of time. And of course, this past summer, I don't know about anyone on the call, but in Guelph, it was very dry. And so this type of pellet can actually be quite beneficial for soil nutrients and for water. So this picture here on the next slide is actually it's kind of blurry, but this is what a wool pellet looks like. So they purchased this small scale pelletizing machine, and the loan helped also install it. It requires quite a bit of electrical connection in terms of making sure it's the right voltage. So they've also looked at, in addition to the pelletizer, is taking on the possibility of what could be done with wool when you use it in a carding process. So this is a really interesting part of this project because they're looking at using unwanted wool for things like landscape fabric, insulation, maybe it's around acoustic paneling, home decor, other consumer goods that could take waste wool and possibly use it. So again, here's showing that circularity piece of taking a product that otherwise would go to waste and being able to use it again. And the third example we're going to give is a company located in Guelph-Wellington. They're located actually up in Collingwood, but they serve Kitchener-Waterloo and parts of Southern Ontario. The Conscious Kitchen is a fantastic business. They're women-owned, run, and locally operated. They provide ready-to-eat meals delivered right to your door. They took out a $10,000 Harvest Impact loan earlier this year, and they really wanted to take a look at their reusable container program. They also wanted to consider buying produce from local farms that maybe otherwise would go to waste. So if a farm had maybe not so perfect carrots or maybe some not so perfect lettuce, could Conscious Kitchen purchase that and be able to take it and almost reuse it or upcycle for ready-to-eat meals? One of the things that they noticed over the course of the pandemic was that obviously a lot of like ready-to-eat meal delivery companies had been started. People weren't accessing restaurants or being able to go out as easily. And so they noticed that with meal kits, actually, many of the packaging and delivery pieces are quite wasteful. So they wanted to consider, okay, could we reuse some of our packaging and have it be upcycled in a way that we could continue to use it again and again? So with the loan, they were exploring the possibility of purchasing this type of container where it's like a clamshell, it's a plastic that's reusable up to a number of times. And for them, they really wanted to get to the point where they could save on containers, but also reuse them. And they looked at around 35,000 containers per year as their need. They really wanted to look at, like I said earlier, taking imperfect produce from farmers that would otherwise potentially going to compost or landfill. And this was great because where they're located, they have lots of access to farms, and being able to take some of that excess food from farms and be able to create meals from it was great for the farmers, but also for them. Again, like Heather mentioned, being able to partner with people within the supply chain system that can help you get elements of your product that you might normally maybe have to purchase. So they had great success. They're continuing to test their containers and be able to explore expanding to new areas. And I know Celeste, she's a huge champion of sustainability. She has a background in the food business, but also in the charitable sector. So if you're ever interested in exploring what they're doing, Celeste would be a great resource to chat with. Okay.
All right. So thanks, Jess.
That's us on that picture. I just really.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's amazing. With Able.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's actually in that image. That's as the second floor at 10C. 10C, just because we've been referencing it, and maybe not everybody knows, but we are a physical 16 square thousand foot building in Guelph, and we're more than a building. You know I mentioned that we funded the purchase of this building through $2.5 million of community bonds. We are a place where we support social impact and social enterprise and purpose and community and so many of those things. So we do provide lots of physical spaces. We're a co-working space as well. But now, one of the things that yeah, an interesting bit to know is we now have a team here at 10C of 19, and we're building out beyond the physical space of a place you can come and work. It's like, now how else are we supporting you? So Harvest Impact, as we've just described, is one of those great ways, but we also have lots of programming. So for example, right now, I've built out curriculum toward supporting organizations for your theory of change. And if you don't know what a theory of change is for a social purpose organization or for a not-for-profit, it's kind of like a strategic planning guide. The basic things around a theory of change are, if we do these things, we expect these outcomes so that we affect this bigger impact. And so that would be an example of some of the curriculum. So if you and if there's because we have a membership now of close to 300, if we don't have the curriculum, somebody in our network will definitely have it and be able to support you. So it's another great reason to reach out. Maybe you have a circular idea, maybe you need some support, maybe you're not sure how funding would support you. These are definitely ways that Jess and I can work with you. So another thing is you might be looking for partners. I often joke, I think I got this role just because I know a lot of people.
No, that's not true.
No, but like I would take your thread, you know, someone called me a weaver once. I would take your thread and what you're doing. I'd be like, let's connect it together with this other person. And how could you partner? And maybe we're supporting you in harvest funding, or maybe we know of a grant that's outside of what we're doing. Like, we're really here to animate and elevate what you're up to, with however that might happen. So making those connections and you know, intentionally, you know, creating the collision that or catalyze. I'm getting all the C's out for 10C here, but you know, that would make that happen. So we're definitely here to support you. Yeah, it's like my absolute joy to get to do this with Jess. So we'd love to hear from you and
absolutely.
Yeah, know what you're up to.
So the one thing we were going to put, Angie's going to put this in the chat. There is a conversation coming up in Guelph-Wellington on November the 2nd. And for anyone that's interested in learning more about community bonds, like Heather mentioned, around social finance, Habitat for Humanity has just launched, as I think, an article in the paper today about their new community bond project that they're going to fund 2 buildings. I believe one's in Guelph, one's in Fergus. 10C's been supporting them getting that program up and running and helping to figure out how best to be able to encourage other community groups to be able to have this type of funding option. So if you're a not-for-profit, you're a charity, you're an entrepreneur, anyone that's interested in social finance, please register at the Eventbrite link, and it'll be a great conversation led by Dr. Audrey Jamel from the University of Guelph, and Habitat for Humanity will be here as well.
Great. That's us.
That's us. I think there's one last. There. Oh, contact us. There's our contact information. If you have questions, please reach out. We'd love to chat with you.
And I did add the links for 10C and Harvest Impact into the chat. So you can also reach out to Jess and Heather through there, or you connect with us and we can make those introductions at any time. So very exciting. Lots and lots of spaces, lots of ways to get involved. Honestly, I think there's just so much going on. I find Guelph is such a hub for activity in these spaces, and what we're between the smart cities and the COIL projects and the Harvest Impact projects and 10C, there's lots going on. So there's lots of resources out there. So as our last day and our last session for this week focused on the circularity, do connect with all our wonderful presenters. I'm sure they can reach out to you, Heather, Jess, by email, or are you on LinkedIn and the social platforms as well? So yeah, so definitely reach out to Jess and Heather. They can help you navigate that. If you're not sure, let us know. We can make sure we get those introductions to you. For tomorrow's workshop, so I don't have any comments or chats in the live stream. So for those of you who are in the Zoom room, please stick around. For those of you who are watching online, hopefully you'll join us tomorrow. We are going to be doing chair yoga with one of our past participants. So a little bit of an end of the week kind of relax after a bunch of busy weeks. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's been finding everything going crazy in the world lately. So hopefully everybody can take a time to breathe before the weekend. So again, that's a lunch hour session. We'll be live streaming it here, as well as you can register directly through our website. And we have lots coming up next week. as well. So do take a look at all those, including 2 live events. So Jess and Heather, you're also welcome to come to any of our events. We have one at the Friendly Society next Thursday from 3 to 5 in the Laura, and then at City Hall next Friday from 2 to 4 to celebrate our 1 year in our space at City Hall. So we'd love to have anybody and everybody come join us and meet us in person. Oh my gosh, the in-person part. Meet us in person, shake hands or bump a fist, whatever we need, and have a conversation that way as well. So have a great day. For those of you who are on Zoom, stick around for a second. For those of you who are online, we'll talk to you again soon.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Angela.
No worries.